What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is Friday, September 18th, and we are rolling into week 2 of the NFL season, coming off a heater in week 1 for this Picks Podcast, which is what we're about to go into. Got scorching hot. Our parlay hit Rams, Packers, and Cardinals. And in fact, we told you to sprinkle on the money line. It would have paid you 12-1. Naturally, I didn't play it myself, which is probably why it won. So I'll abstain this week as well. Yes, I'm a moron. Joining me, you can watch us if you want to see what do we call it, tan and white. Pete Prisco, RJ White, and Kenny White, the White brothers, and Pete. You can watch us on YouTube.com. Yeah, YouTube at youtube.com/pick6. Available on all devices, unlike some other streaming services who will not be mentioned. I'm not upset about being able to watch golf or anything like that. Standings after week 1. We didn't have anything official from Kenny. We'll go back and find it. He did very well, especially in the afternoon games. So I went 4-0, Pete 4-1, and RJ 6-2, including 4-1 on his picks on sportsline.com. Go to sportsline.com. Use promo code WHITE, and you can get your first month for $1. And bonus, if you sign up at Sportsline, you also get a free CBS All Access account. So you can watch NFL games on that. You can watch your local games on that.
On fire. We were on fire last week.
On fire, that's right.
You know that ain't lasting.
How you guys doing? Maybe it will.
RJ, on fire on Sportsline. Buy his picks.
I have confidence we're going to keep it going.
I do
we
too.
all have a good
I love this week.
Yeah, we have a good handle on the season. I typically love week 2 a lot more than I did this year. Typically, you can find these overreactions where there's a big swing, and I think that it really only happened in one game, and the rest of them were kind of mediocre swings. So I had a little trouble navigating the board, but I still came up with some bets I like.
By the way, Kenny, are you sipping something out of a Moscow Mule cup?
He really is.
It's water. It's water.
I'm not suggesting it's a mule. I just like.
No, it keeps the water colder.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, I love a mule cup. A nice cup.
Well, it's not 5 o'clock yet in Vegas, but then that doesn't matter anyway.
It's close.
Always 5 o'clock in Vegas. By the way, Pete and I both went 9-6-1 against the spread for the full week. I believe that puts us. Yeah, that's significantly ahead of John Breach, who went 5-10-1. That's not very good. Everybody else was about 500. Ryan Wilson 11-4-1. I actually would have changed my 2 Monday night picks. I did that in our picks pool, mainly because I felt like once we got to Monday, the lesson we had learned from Sunday is that if you have an experienced defensive line against an inexperienced or weakened offensive line, you really need to try to exploit that matchup in the early going in 2020. So let's dive into these games and see if anything is exploitable, beginning with the highest total on the board this week, I believe. It is the Cowboys and the Falcons. Falcons at Dallas, Cowboys -4.5. The over-under has moved up to 53. I think it's open at like 50, Pete. Is there any number that Vegas can hang here that you think will go under?
Yeah, if it goes up a couple more points, it might, but there's going to be a lot of scoring in this game. I think when you look at what the Falcons did last week against Russell Wilson, he carved them to shreds. And look, the Rams move the ball and consistently move the ball on the Cowboys. I think you'll see that with the Falcons as well. Remember, the Falcons threw for 400 yards, and much of it was garbage time. Don't get me wrong, but all 3 receivers had a boatload of catches and yards. I think they'll be in play here against the secondary that I don't think is all that good in Dallas. So if you're going to make me pick this game, I'm not making me. I love the over in this game, but I also like the Falcons. I think this is a field goal game. As 2 teams that need a win, and if you're going to, in that scenario, I'm going to take more than a field goal. I'll take the Falcons in the 4.5 too. I like both plays.
Yeah, I'm completely in line with Pete here, though I didn't make them best bets. I'm just a lean on the over and a lean on the Falcons because I can see both arguments on both sides of the spread. I mean, it was 6.5 on the look ahead. So if you like the Cowboys, you're getting a discount now at 4.5. But Atlanta prepped to face Seattle last week, and they ended up facing Kansas City with that passing offense. So,
yeah, it's amazing.
So I don't know, how they were supposed to deal with that, and obviously didn't make adjustments. But, Atlanta isn't going 0 for 4 on 4th down in very many games. That game could have been much closer if not for those fumbling the fake punt after he caught the first down. And these short 4th downs that he didn't convert. So Dallas injuries have me leaning Atlanta, but, Falcons don't have the horses on the defensive line to exploit the injuries we see on the Dallas offensive line. So like the over a little bit more in the spread, but I would take Atlanta, especially with the backdoor potential on this Cowboys secondary.
Yeah, I'm in step with you guys. I like Atlanta in this spot. Again, RJ, you mentioned last week the struggles they had with some fourth downs and turnovers. Other than that, they win that football game. Dallas, watched them last week versus the Rams. The injuries, I think, are mounting up. Collins being out on the offensive line, I think, hurt, but this offense is still going to put up points. But defensively now, without Sean Lee, Van Der Esch now out, they got some other injuries. I know their best nickelback, Lewis, is out. They just didn't look like they were that great of a defense against the Ram team, who I'm not impressed with their offense yet. And I think that they're going to be very conservative, the Rams. Atlanta, I feel opposite. Matt Ryan has got plenty of targets, plenty of weapons, and I think Atlanta can put up points, and they will against Dallas. And Dak Prescott will answer back. It'll be a 31-30 football game.
Yeah, I love the over here. It has climbed a little bit more than you would like. I mean, 50 would be better. Here's the reason you shouldn't be worried about the Falcons slowing down the Cowboys. Raheem Morris came out after the game and said they weren't prepared for the Seahawks to pass, which, I mean, I guess we weren't either, but, we're not defensive coordinators in the NFL. So maybe consider a different possible game script, like that the team is going to operate on offense to the best of their ability. That's not a good look for Raheem Morris there,
Yeah, but I mean, what is he supposed to do? Well, we have like years and years of data on Seattle that they're going to grind the ball out and they're not going to let Russ cook, and everybody's been complaining. So, I mean, he has every right to think that it's going to be one of those type of games. So when Russ is going 31 for 35 and hitting everybody but DK Metcalf 100% of the time, I mean, what else are you going to do? You just don't expect it.
Yeah,
don't tell everybody.
The bad news is Pete's already talking about they need to run the ball more.
Right.
Yeah, no,
Well,
that's bad.
we'll get to Seattle again. I would expect that we see a different Seattle offense in week 2. That was sort of like hey, we know how to let Russ cook situation. But I would say that I like the over here too, but I don't know. I like the Cowboys more than the Falcons. So I don't know that we have a consensus here unless everybody likes the over.
Yeah, I think
I'm an over.
Not a best bet, but I like it.
All right, so throw it in the parlay or no?
Does Kenny like the over too?
Yeah, I like the over too. Yeah.
Sure,
All right, so
I agree with you on the secondaries. Both secondaries, I think, are average
right.
secondaries.
Put it in the parlay. The running parlay that Debo will keep in this document, so I won't screw it up by the end of the show. Rams at the Eagles. The Eagles lost to the Washington football team, WFT, I should say. The WFT defensive line took over. Carson Wentz. I thought it was a highlight montage of Carson Wentz getting blitzkrieg. He was just on his back or getting smashed. Every time I looked up at my television, the Rams are a pick'em here. So the game is a pick'em. And the over-under is 45.5. I know all three of you have a best bet here, but Pete, tell me what you like.
My best bet is the Eagles, and I think it's the lock of the week. This is the perfect overreaction to what happened last week. The Rams, everybody saw them. They beat America's team. Oh, look, the Rams are great. Now they got to go across the country and play the Eagles team who lost to a Washington team after leading 17-0. I went back and rewatched that game. Carson Wentz held the ball too long. He took about a field goal range on one sack. The line wasn't great, but it wasn't nearly as bad as that sack number. He has to get rid of the football. I think he'll do a better job of that. Lane Johnson's supposed to be back. Miles Sanders will be back. And I think they held those guys. They held Miles Sanders back. There's some scuttlebutt. They held him back because they didn't think they need him in that game, which was a mistake. And they ended up losing the game. This time around, look, I know Donald's going to get his, but you double him. The rest of that pass rush is average at best. And I think they'll be able to make some throws down the field in this game. He missed a few throws, too. He was wild high and inaccurate in the second half. He rebounds. I love the Eagles in this spot.
Yeah, I was talking about the overreaction lines. This was the big one. It was 3.5 on the look-ahead. Eagles moved all the way to Rams +1 once it reopened and people started steaming the Rams. But Philly struggled due to injuries last week, and they're not going to be that team moving forward. They'll be able to block better, especially when they're playing lines that aren't as good as Washington. And I know that the Rams have Aaron Donald, but like Pete said, they don't have a complete pass rush there. So Philly actually did great defensively despite the loss. I know they gave up 27 points, but they had the lowest yardage allowed in the league. So a lot of that was taking those sacks, getting in bad field position, turning the ball over and letting Washington score easy points. So I think the Rams could still dominate a little bit on the offensive line, but that Philly D is going to keep him in this game. Philly deserves to be favored here to me. Don't overreact to week 1. Eagles are also a best bet for me.
I'm going to be opposite on this one. So we got a little bit of opposite. I made the Rams a 3-point favorite in the game. I'm not giving any home field, and to me it doesn't matter. I don't care if they have to fly from here to Australia. They're professional players, and they're ready. Those type of things hurt bad teams. Then they hurt good teams. I'm down on Philadelphia's defense. I have Philadelphia's defense rated below average in the NFL. I'm also hoping that they've got 3 defensive linemen. They're all questionable for this game. 3 of their 4 starters are questionable, may not play. They're supposed to get Lane Johnson back, but how healthy is he? This offensive line has gone through so much turmoil. I think they missed Brooks greatly on the offensive line. And without Brooks and Johnson last week, it really showed up that they can be beaten inside. Still no Alshon Jeffrey. The Rams, I think, are just well coached. I like Malcolm Brown at running back. I think their defensive front's fine. I like Brockers. I like Robinson, and Donald can line up anywhere now. So I've got a small play in it. It is one of my plays because I got a 3-point difference. I just think Philadelphia is still beat up. I still think they're injury prone, and their guys could have more guys out. If they're missing 1 or 2 guys on the defensive front, I'm making it 4.5.
So let me ask you this. A lot of times we talk about overreactions. Is this the overreaction game for you guys, or is it? Because, I mean, I think that, like, in a normal season, you can be like, all right, everybody's going to be on the Rams here because they saw the Rams. It looks like the Rams are back. The Rams are good. The Eagles are trash. They lost to a bad there's an opportunity to sort of, go the zig when everybody's zagging. That usually works out pretty well for you when you bet on the NFL. Is there less of an opportunity for that in 2020?
No, I think there is. Let me jump in real quick.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, there was an overreaction to this. I would love to be taking 3.5, or I'd love to be taking 3. I'd have a tremendous bet on my end at that point, but I'm not. And professionals did take the 3. They took the 2.5. They bet it down to pick. They laid pick. Professionals were laying pick on the Rams on Sunday night because they felt like they were the better football team. So there was an overreaction here. But I think the line is, right where it's supposed to be. I don't think you're going to see the Eagles 1.5 or 2.5 come game time. I think you got a better opportunity maybe seeing the Rams the favorite if some of these Eagle players aren't going to play.
So, Kenny, let me ask you something real quick. You said you have the Rams as 3 points better. I think the prevailing thought coming into the season was that the Eagles and Rams were pretty close to the same team. They were 8.5, 9-win teams on the win total market, somewhere around there. So what's your opinion there? Are the Rams better than people thought, or are the Eagles much worse?
That's a good question. I'm probably right now with both teams about a couple points above average. So
it sounds like if the Rams are 3 points better, then, I mean, they could be a really good contender based on what you saw in week 1.
Yeah, the San Francisco, I've still got rated very high in Seattle. I have upgraded their rating after week 1. Russell Wilson's just tremendous. So I thought Seattle's defense was way down. We'll find out in the next coming weeks, but that's one thing I thought they were weak in. We'll find out where my rating's at on Philadelphia. Like I said, I have them 1 point below an average NFL defense, and if they're missing guys, it should show up a little bit this week.
I was just trying to lead you there because I was high on the Rams to win the division. So
Kenny, you live in Vegas, and RJ's been around it all. You know those touts? I got my lock of the year. My lock of the year. Well, this is my lock of this week right here. The Eagles.
All right, I will probably take the Eagles now, but I don't. I think it's gonna be a close game. The Donald just takes over the game and destroys. Like, Lane Johnson's gonna have to play. I really think the Eagles tend to go, and Carson Wentz tends to go as Lane Johnson goes. Like, if he's not there, they struggle bad, and he struggles bad. And if he's got Lane Johnson there protecting him, for whatever reason, he is a substantially better quarterback.
Jason Peters looked like an old man last week, by the way.
He is an old man.
Yeah, but he looked like it. He hadn't looked like that. He looked bad.
What you're saying, Pete, for old people?
Spinning top. Oh, no, I give out a spinning top award every week to the offensive lineman. Woo! Spinning top. He didn't win it, though.
He was one of the leaders in pressures allowed with your boy Bobby Hart that I know you love.
Bobby Hart's an all-time spinning top.
Bobby Hart's a spinning top Mount Rushmore.
No, Donovan Smith was the winner last week. Trey Hendrickson abused him, and he's not that good.
That is a good choice. All right, moving along. Let's go to Chiefs and Chargers. We have multiple best bets on this game. Chiefs minus 8.5 at the Chargers. The over-under was 50. Opened up at like 50 or 50.5, has dropped all the way down to 47.5. Kenny, let me ask you, what are you looking at when you see Chiefs and Chargers?
I'm looking at the Chiefs coming off a Super Bowl win to start the season, and Monday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens next week. So I'm expecting this is a game, and Andy Reid's numbers are off the charts. He's 25-2 versus division opponents, and it's yada, 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 extra time to prepare, all the advantages. But these guys are professional players. They won a Super Bowl. Those numbers betting against Super Bowl teams are always very profitable in the NFL. And I love it that they play Baltimore next on a Monday night. I think they're going to be thinking about that, looking ahead to that. Chargers will come in very conservative. They're going to slow it down. They're going to try to grind it out on the ground. They're going to try to keep Mahomes off the field. Yeah, probably won't be able to do that with great luck, but you know what? Tyrod Taylor will take care of the ball, won't turn it over. He'll just keep his team in the game. This is very solid defense on the Charger sides. I think they have the better defense. I've got the team with the better defense. Getting points, I'll take it all day long. Yeah, obviously, quarterback situation, there's no comparison. I got a 9-point difference, Mahomes over Taylor. But that defense should be able to make some plays this week for the Chargers.
And Pouncey goes on the IR on Thursday, so you gotta worry about that offensive line too. We saw it was shaky in week 1, and that was an issue. So it's interesting that the under is steaming pretty hard toward the under, and the line isn't moving. And I think the only reason bettors would do that is that they do not believe in this Chargers offense. They saw what they saw with Cincinnati and didn't love them at all. So I think the line's a little too high. I think there is value on the Chargers, but I have no interest in fading the Chiefs. So I'm just going to stay away from this one with just a lean on the Chargers.
You guys know how much I love Patrick Mahomes, right, Brinson, since I found him?
You did.
Kidding.
You didn't find Patrick Mahomes, but I will say that you were one of the few people who actually stood up on the soapbox and said he's going to be the best quarterback in the draft class.
Yeah, I as much as I love Patrick
Ryan
Mahomes.
Pace should have hired you as a
Well, yeah, he wouldn't have Mitch Trubisky because I would have never drafted him. But as much as I love Patrick Mahomes, I don't like this spot. And I'll tell you why. The Chargers played him pretty well last night. He threw touchdown passes, but if you look at his yardage numbers, they were way down by his standards in those 2 games last year. And one of the reasons is, and I went back and watched both those games last year leading into the Super Bowl because the 49ers played the same type of defense. They make him be patient. He doesn't like to be patient. Now, it's different. They have this running game that they love so much. But again, if you're the Chiefs and you're going to run the rookie, Edwards-Helaire, and you're not going to allow Mahomes to be Mahomes, then I'll take that all day if I'm a defense. You want to watch him run for 120 yards? Have at it, because that makes me a happy defensive coordinator because I don't have to defend that quarterback as much. So I do think the Chargers have played him well the way they play defense. They make him be patient, and he doesn't like it, and he's turned the ball over against him at times. I think this is one of those scenarios where they make him be patient. They keep it within the number. I like the Chargers plus the points.
So I said, and this is why you need to subscribe to the Pick Six Podcast YouTube, because on Sunday night when we recorded it, I said, hey, bet this Chiefs-Chargers under. This game it's at 50. It is way too high. You would have 3 points of closing line value, CLV, if you prefer. And the reason why I still like the under at 47.5, and it's one of my best bets, is that if you look at what Andy Reid is doing this year, I think he and Bill Belichick, who, for my money, are the 2 best coaches, the 2 smartest coaches in the NFL currently, and 2 of the 10 greatest coaches of all time, they realize that in this shortened offseason with this weird setup, it is beneficial for your team to come in and be more simple on offense in what you want to do in the first few weeks. Look at Patrick Mahomes, like next-gen stat passing chart. He attempted 1 pass more than 20 yards down the field. His average depth of target was like 5.9 yards. It's the lowest in his career. Andy Reid didn't take any shots. Did he play chess all over Bill O'Brien and his coaching staff? Absolutely. While they're like diddling around with checkers and whatnot. I mean, they were backing up, trying to prevent the deep pass. I don't know that the Chargers will do the same thing, but the one way to beat the Chargers is not to pass all over them, because you put your quarterback in a dangerous spot because they have great pass rushers. They are, however, susceptible to the run. They have been for the past few years. They don't have Derwin James, and I think that they will pound Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I think the Chargers, as you guys point out, will be more than willing to play this slow ball game. I think this game finishes under 40 points, and we see one of the slowest games of the year. And the under is a mortal lock. I would slam it at 47.5. And I think you should take the first half under as well, just in the event that the Chiefs don't, I think that's a good option as well, because the Chiefs may come out and try and start throwing in the second half if they can't score easily in the run game against the Chargers.
Makes sense.
Correlated parlay.
Yeah, exactly. I can't get back the Chargers. I don't think you can fade in my opinion, the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Saints right now. I just don't think you could do it.
Did somebody on this show talk about Andy Reid when he's an 8.5-point favorite or more? He was 22-1 to the under last. And
No, but that's
they didn't go under on Thursday night. That was the talk about Thursday night against Houston that ended up going over with a late field goal, but it went under the opening number. So
Andy was desperate to get that over too, man. He just wasn't going to let.
I'll tell you what, if they play. I'm the happiest defensive coordinator in the world if he plays that way the rest of the season and doesn't allow him to sling the ball down the field. That plays right into your. Go ahead, take your running game. I'll give Clyde Edwards-Helaire 150 yards every game if he's not slinging it down the field.
Well, don't you think that they might come with, don't you think it's possible that the Chargers come with a pass-oriented defense as well? Like, let's.
Yeah, they do. That's what they play. They play off, and they make them be patient. Yeah,
right. This
is a perfect scenario for an under.
So looking at that really quickly, since 2013, 17 games where the Chiefs were 8 points or more, favored by 8.5 points or more. The last two, one against the Chargers in 2019 and the Texans game, went over, and only 2 more of the games went over in those 15. So you're looking at what is that? The quick math would be 12, 4-1 because there was one that was a push. So there is some correlation there on the under. All right.
And the Chargers played the slowest of any team in the NFL last year, 116 plays in their games. They take forever. They're not going to gamble with Tyrod Taylor, and he's not going to turn it over for short field position for Kansas City.
All right. We love the under. Do you guys like the under? You want to parlay the under? No?
I like the under.
RJ?
It's not a best bet, but I like it.
Playing the under in a Chiefs game, I mean.
That's hard. I agree.
Yeah.
Cowards.
Plus,
right, moving along.
He's not gonna not allow him to at least take shots this week. Come on, we know better. He's gonna get back to throwing the ball around. It's just I think the Chargers defend him pretty well.
Panthers at the Buccaneers. Bucks minus 8.5, over under 47.5. Tom Brady looked pretty terrible, Kenny, on Sunday against the Saints. Fortunately for him, as he tries to get this offense. Unfortunately for him, Chris Godwin is in concussion protocol. Fortunately for him, he might not. Scotty Miller might look like Chris Godwin against this Panthers defense.
Yeah, this is. I talked about when Brady first went to Tampa. I said I'll probably be fading Tampa Bay a lot because they're going to be overinflated on the number, and they were in Week 1 against the best team in the NFL. Only a 3.5-point dog when they should have been getting 7.5 or 8.5. I don't like this situation as much because, Matt Rule, first-year NFL head coach, Joe Brady, first-time coordinator, and Teddy Bridgewater, new quarterback. But you know what? That wasn't a problem. They scored 30 points last week. It was the defense. They give up 34. The defense will give up points again in this football game because the defense is not very good. But I don't like Tampa's pass defense. And I think Bridgewater will have a big day. Once again, he'll put up 30 points. And if you know you're going to get 30 points and you're getting plus 8.5, I think you got a pretty good shot to win the game unless you give up points in the 40s. I just don't think that happens. I don't have Tom Brady rated at an elite quarterback anymore. He's 43 years old. He can't make all the passes. He's not in the same offense that he was in. He's making mistakes. He's throwing pick sixes. So I'm going to take Carolina in this situation. Just again, I think Tampa Bay is overinflated.
Yeah, spread's really high after what Tom Brady looked, in his debut. Teddy is 14-2 against the spread on the road as a starter. So he knows how to go on the road and get you the covers. I thought the Tampa Bay defense was solid despite what the scoreboard said. I think they did a pretty good job getting put in these bad situations because of Brady. I think that they could help them get a double-digit win. So it's only a lean for me for the Panthers. I do like the Panthers, but I'm not going to fire on them. As with most Panthers game, I'm happy taking the over. I'm not making that a best bet, but because I think that Bucs defense could show up. But I think both those are my leans.
Yeah, I like the over in this game a lot because I think the Carolina defense right now isn't very good. It's going to be. They have a whole bunch of young kids playing on that defense. They're going to be pretty good by the end of the year. They're going to be really good next year. But right now they're not very good. I think their offense can score points. I like the over in this game. If I had to lean one way, like in one team or another, I'd probably lean to Tampa Bay just because I think that defense is so bad. And I think Brady's, got called out by Bruce Arians, and we know how that works out. And I think he responds to that.
Yeah, John Ledyard, friend of the pod, who used to work for Draft Network and then went to now works for the Pewter Report down in Tampa Bay, said that Tom Brady's presser was angry Tom. So we should expect fiery belly Tom Brady to come out, and he don't want to be embarrassed in his home opener in this new stadium, especially if, like, what if the Bucs started 0-2 and Bill Belichick goes and gets a win in Seattle? I mean, all of a sudden, like, the volume gets real cranked up on Narrative Street, and that's not fun for Tom Brady. I do think that the Bucs will win this fairly handily, but I would much rather take the over here. It's one of my best bets, 47.5. The Panthers can't stop anybody, and I don't think that the defense will be bad forever. Derek Brown manhandled some dudes on the Raiders offensive line last week. As you point, Pete, he's your favorite defensive player in the draft.
Yep.
He looked great. Yetur Gross-Matos is going to be very good against the run very quickly, I think. And Jeremy Chin, they moved all over, and he made some plays for the Panthers. But they're all young players, and Tom Brady is going to be able to put up some points. The Panthers will score as well. This game goes over 50. If the Panthers have an over that's less than 50 in the next couple of weeks, just take the over. It doesn't matter who they're playing. There's going to be points.
Hey, Will, I got a question. We're going to go right down the line, Pete, RJ, and then yourself to answer this one. But I thought the week one would be very low scoring. I was banking on a lot of overs. I said 16 games, you're going to see 13 unders and 3 overs. I was completely wrong because I forgot how smart the NFL was. And they said, you know what? They knew the same thing. We didn't have preseason. Our games could be boring. That's the last thing we want. We want points. We want excitement. Let's let the offensive linemen hold like we do in the playoffs because we don't want any of our star players to get hurt. Let's give the quarterbacks all the time they need, and let's torch 78% holding penalties down. 78% down from last year. So they didn't call any holding. Pete, do you think they continue to do the same thing? They want high
Well, I think as it moves on, you'll see more holding. Let's not forget either, they didn't tackle. Nobody tackled. Very little tackling. Some teams tackled in camp, but there were no preseason games, and angles and busted plays and that kind of thing. That's a problem. That's why I thought, and I said it all offseason. I said it, Brinson, on this podcast. I said the first couple of weeks there are going to be more points than we normally see because of the tackling and combined with the lack of holding. Don't forget, these are all crews that are chopped up. They don't work because geographically they're not the same crews that they normally work together as. So a guy who might throw a flag on one crew doesn't necessarily throw a flag on the other crew because he doesn't know what the chief is like. So I think add that all up, and that's why the points are up.
Holding was down 78%, but offensive pass interference was up 8,000%. So we could have had even more points.
Yeah, and I think if the only comparable, and I don't know if we sort of talked about it, Kenny, but I don't know if we talked about, like, you mentioned the unders, and then we said, and maybe you had to jump off to go on Sportsline or whatever it was, but we were mentioning it. Like in 2011, weeks 1 and 2, the overs hit at 72%, and I think that's really the only comparable season to what we have now in terms of training camp and a lack of preparation. I think you're right. I mean, I think the NFL doesn't want to call a bunch of holding, and let's not forget, this is preseason for the officials too. Like they're trying to get their heads around what's going on. Good example.
Like, look at the Panthers. You talked about all those young kids.
Bobby Anderson touchdown.
No, but I'm talking about defensively. Jeremy Chin going into that game had never been played against speed like that, and the angles and real tackling. So you have to adjust to it. And I think as we move through September on into October, you'll see the tackling get better, and the points might come down a little bit. But this week again, I think you're going to see high scoring again.
Yeah, when I meant Robbie Anderson, I meant the Raiders' safety was wildly out of position.
Oh, yeah.
When Robbie Anderson broke that. It was like a 70-yard touchdown for Teddy Bridgewater. They threw 7 yards. All right, moving along. Lions at Packers. Pete's Packers. Pete's pretty little Packers. -6 against my lowly Lions. The over-under is 49.5. Pete, this is your team.
I'll give you are you trying to get out of that Lions-Packers bet for the division yet?
Not only if you're trying to get out of Steelers-Ravens.
Hell no, I'm not getting out of that one.
Okay.
Roethlisberger looked good, but you guys know I have the Packers. Will Brinson has
the Lions should have won last week. DeAndre Swift, you're killing me, Smalls. God almighty.
Yeah, well, Stafford threw a terrible interception, too, that set up a point-blank go-ahead touchdown. So, look, there was no doubt in the Packers game. Aaron Rodgers is back. The ball didn't go over helmet high. That means he's back. He's throwing lasers. You mock me for Valdez-Scantling. If the kid catches 2 more passes, he has 180 yards in offense because he dropped 2 that should have been long gains. He's getting open. His speed adds to that offense. The Lions are decimated in the secondary. This is easy in terms of Packers but it's also easy in terms of the over. This game is soaring over the total. I love the Packers and Lions as my best bet over.
You mocked me for my receiver that dropped 2 passes. I guess I showed you.
He still had a touchdown and 100 yards.
Oh, he had a good game. I just thought that was
You
funny.
sound like our editor, Dan, who's like, I don't understand what all the complaints are about Daniel Jones. He had a great game aside from the 3 massive turnovers that completely flipped the outcome of the game.
Yeah, no, I'm on the Packers. Packers are my best bet. Yeah, I do like the over too, but a lot of key injuries for Detroit, especially in the secondary. Aaron Rodgers could slice them up. I'm not completely on Pete's bandwagon here with Aaron Rodgers because I think that Vikings defense could be pretty bad, especially at secondary. But it's another good matchup here, so I think he's going to have another great week and look like an MVP candidate. I'm also not sure if the Lions are going to have Kenny Golladay and Vaitai at right tackle, 2 key guys on offense. I would make this one Packers -7. I think we're getting solid value. I think the line is going to move up though, so get it at 6 while you can.
Yeah, the injuries for Detroit are mounting, and it's hurting this football team, and they still should have won the game last week. I thought when I saw the line Green Bay 6, well, I said, well, I'm going to be taking 7.5 because the entire world will bet Green Bay. And I still think the general public probably will on game day, but I guess it's not going to get as high as I thought. Matt Patricia continues to amaze everyone how he can blow leads and blow football games as a head coach in the NFL. I'm all on board with the over. The secondary beat up for Detroit. Rodgers should have a gigantic day, and nobody's better than Matthew Stafford at coming back against prevent defenses. So, yeah, tons of points in this one.
Yeah, this over is a smash. Look, you need to get it in now, though. If you're listening to this podcast on Friday, it's 49.5. It will close at 52. Like, it's going to keep going up because these teams cannot play defense. And Kenny's right. There's going to be bombs away against a Packers defense that is fairly lethargic because they have a substantial lead. Like, I just don't see a situation where we don't see tons of points. And look, Rodgers is still in bleep you, nobody believes in me except for Pete mode. So, I mean, he might be throwing the ball around as well. Finally, Pete, we'll get you out. We got Kenny. Kenny's got to go.
I got to go.
Kenny. Pete, I do want quickly your thoughts on the Giants and Bears game because you have a best bet there.
Yeah, I do have the best bet because I think the Giants actually did some really good things the other day against the Steelers. You talked about Jones. He turned the ball over, but he made some really good throws as well. And I think that the Bears aren't very good. I think Trubisky careered last year, and now he's getting back to being – last week, I think Trubisky's getting back to being Trubisky. And so if you're going to give me almost a touchdown, I'll take it with the Giants. I don't think they win the game, but I think they hang around. They're not much worse than the Bears. So I'll take the Giants plus the 6. The short week worries me a little bit, but I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm with Pete here. I'm not going to make it a best bet for the Giants. Bears shouldn't be laying this many points against anyone with their offense. Chicago needed a bunch of secondary injuries to finally move the ball in Detroit at the end of the game, like we were talking about the injuries in that Lions game. I thought the Giants D actually played pretty well for much of Monday night. I know that they lost pretty handily, but, they were in that game. It was a lot better than what I was expecting from that with all the injuries and absences and DeAndre Baker's nonsense that was happening in the offseason. So I think they could have a good game here against a mediocre offense at best. But the reason I'm not playing it really comes down to, will the Giants O-line be able to slow up Khalil Mack and the Bears pass rush? I don't know that I want to be holding a ticket hoping that's going to happen if Daniel Jones needs to rally for a cover at the end. So I'm just going to lean to the Giants. I'm going to lean to the under because I don't think the Bears are scoring a ton of points. But I'm not going to best bet either of these.
I think the Bears win outright, but I'm not going to make it a best bet. I just think the Bears I say the Bears or I say the Giants.
You think the Giants are going to win outright?
I think the Giants are going to win outright. I think the Bears are bad.
Wow.
I think the Bears are bad. The Bears were getting smashed.
So we all like the Giants, so we put it in a parlay?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Now that Kenny's gone.
Do not money line it for the parlay, but we have what do we have? But we don't want to do the Chiefs under. So we have the Falcons, over 53, the Bears.
No, the Giants. The
Giants. Why do I keep saying that? What's wrong with you?
And then maybe the Packers over 49.
Packers over.
Let's put the Packers over, and Kenny like the King Cutler would be some points there. That's our three. That's our Pick Six podcast parlay. Falcons, Cowboys over 53, Giants plus 5.5, and the Packers over 49.5.
Don't bitch when it's 7-0 in those two games in about 10 minutes into the second quarter.
That's right. Or when the Bears are up 42-0.
Yeah.
It's a sorry ass Giants team. All right, Pete, we're gonna let you go. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, RJ and I will rip through the rest of the games on the slate. Thanks, Pete.
All right, fellas. See ya.
All right, RJ, got rid of the riffraff. Pete has passed on, as I like to say last year.
Finally, some serious football talk that we can get down to now.
No more ha-ha, yuck with old Prisco there. 49ers at the Jets. Niners -7 on the road. The over-under is 41.5. I got to tell you, like, in doing my picks for CBSSports.com, I sort of felt like this is a trap, but I also feel like the Jets are by far and away the worst team in football.
Yeah, I don't see how you take San Fran to cover 7 on the road with their injury issues.
Yeah.
I don't see how you take the Jets in any matchup. I don't care what the points are. So there's going to be a stay away on the regular number for me. I would lean to the under. But San Fran is getting a little healthier. I think Ayuk returned to practice on Thursday. So that would be good if they alleviate some of their injury concerns there. We're still monitoring what's going to happen with George Kittle. You know, he was dealing with an injury. That would be a huge loss for them. So leaning to the under, hoping that the San Fran injuries, you know, detail that they're not going to score 40 points against a bad D, even if not fully healthy. But I mean, they can just hand it to Raheem Mostert and run the ball down their throat. So just a lean under for me, but I am going to put San Francisco in a teaser with one of our games coming up in a second.
Ooh, spicy. By the way, I mentioned this on the Heath Cummings DFS podcast from yesterday. You should check it out if you want DFS analysis. I like Tevin Coleman for a monster game in this week. Just
It
like
could happen.
Out of nowhere, Tevin Coleman goes for like 175 yards and 2 touchdowns.
You know, it was good to see McKinnon score a touchdown. We don't know how much they're going to work him in, but, you know, Coleman with the air quality issues, you know, had to be questionable for that game all week. You know, he's raring to go in this one, so maybe he does have a huge game.
All right, next up. And yeah, I agree. Don't take the Jets. Don't take the Niners -7. What you do is you tease them, as RJ said. Maybe you could even tease with the Broncos at the Steelers. Steelers -7.5. That's a teasable number. The over/under 40.5. RJ.
Yeah, this was 6 on the look-ahead line. Steelers 6, and it made no sense because the Steelers were in week 1. Steelers line steamed from 3.5 to 6 against the Giants. The Broncos line fell from -1.5 to +2.5, finally to +3. And this line barely budged, if it budged at all, you know, at 6. So I was saying in my look-ahead column on Friday last week to go ahead and fire on this one. Now it's up to 7.5. I don't love the Steelers at 7.5, but I do love them. You know, if you tease them down, get them at 1.5 and tease them with the 49ers at -1. So that is one of my best bets. These two teams have also been reliable under teams, you know, over the last year plus. They both went under again on Monday. Can't see Drew Lock managing any more success against his defense. And I only worry about Ben clicking and Pittsburgh throwing up a ton of points if I'm going to miss this under, because it looked like he started to get it together on Monday, but, you know, it doesn't seem like he's all the way there back. So I'm just going to go with the teaser, and then I'm going to also best bet under 41.5 in this game because I don't trust Broncos offense.
Looking at it, since 2019, so last year basically, the Steelers had actually, maybe this is a bad example because they didn't have Big Ben. I was just sort of looking at over-unders that were lower than 43. Is that a fair example? Probably not with no Big Ben. Right?
Yeah, I mean, they have one of the best defenses in the league, capable of creating turnovers, and they had nothing on offense. So, of course, they're going to have a lot of low over-unders.
Yeah, I mean, it went 7-2 to the under when it was 43 or lower. And I'm with you. I think we see Vic Fangio's that offense is very conservative. They've got good playmakers, but, you know, we saw the Steelers snuff out Evan Ingram against the Giants. It wouldn't be surprising if Noah Fant was really limited in this game. And then you're basically asking Jerry Jeudy, if Cortland Sutton, you know, if he's unable to go, then you're asking Jerry Jeudy to win one-on-one in tough matchups. I just don't. I'm with you. I don't think they score a lot of points here. I would lean to the under too, but I'll let you have that best bet. Copy your paper. Ravens -7 at the Texans. Over under 50.
This is just like the Chiefs line to me. I think it's too high, but I have no interest in fading the Ravens right now. I love Deshaun Watson, but you could see the Ravens shut down this offense, and it wouldn't be that surprising. It's hard to see that on the other side of the ball where Lamar Jackson looks unstoppable. So I got to stay away from the spread. I would lean Texans just because it seems like there's a little bit of value on them at +7, and I don't think they're a terrible team, but I'm not going against the Ravens right now.
Same thing. Ravens, Saints, and even with Michael Thomas for the Saints for me, and we'll talk about that in a second. And the Chiefs, it's like they're clearly the 3 best teams in football. Don't bet against them. Like, just don't bet against them right now. Let's see how even if it's a big line, they can just burn you because they're so capable of going up top. So I got nothing here. I mean, this is a great game. I'm excited to watch it. I have no interest in taking the Texans +7 again. I don't care if they're home, road, on Mars, in Bill O'Brien's backyard. I'm not doing it. And, you know, 7's a little too much to lay with the Ravens, you know, assuming that they might even consider slowing down the pace in the second half.
Yeah, and the total seems a little high to me at 50, you know, because Ravens defense showed out against Browns in week 1. So, yeah, I could see Deshaun Watson
is hell-bent on running David Johnson over and over.
Yeah, that should be pretty easy to defend. So I could see the Texans score 10 points more than I can see them score 30 and push this one over.
Yeah, I agree with that. Vikings at the Colts. Colts -3. The over under 48.5. What do you think?
Yeah, a matchup of two of the most disappointing teams. You could throw Eagles in there, obviously, but I think people know that that was an injury issue. Indy lost as 8-point favorites, yet the line moved toward them from -2.5 on the look ahead and move up to 3. That's how bad Minnesota looked against Green Bay. I think everybody's kind of off the Minnesota bandwagon at this point. Zimmer used to be great. Always go with Zimmer on the spread because he can always cover these spreads. But against the AFC, he had been great in his career. He's just 2-2 against the spread each of his last 2 years. So it becomes a 50-50 proposition. And if Rivers can throw multiple picks versus Jaguars, he can do it against anyone. But this Vikings secondary just does not, give me anything to be confident about at all. So right now I see less wrong with Indy than Minnesota. So I got to lean that way. But I would have taken it at 2.5. But at 3, it's just going to be a lean.
You know what? I need to go ahead and add another best bet, I feel like. So I'm going to make the Colts one of my best bets. Brinson, best bet. I'll add to the sheet. I guess I could let Debo do it and talk about the game instead. I like the Colts in this spot for a couple of reasons. One, as you point out, so like Mike Zimmer, the Vikings led the league by a large margin in week 1 in terms of rushes on first and second down. They want to run Dalvin Cook. They want Mike Zimmer. It doesn't matter Gary Kubiak, Kyle Shanahan. It doesn't matter who his offensive coordinator is. Norv Turner, whether it's Kevin Stefanski. He's telling these guys, listen, here's the deal. You're going to run the ball. I don't want to open it up and pass it. He doesn't want this to be a Kirk Cousins team. And I get it because that's how he's just always operated with these stout defenses and great running games. The problem is, as you point out, his defense stinks. They're 26 in DVOA after 1 week, and that is a short sample size, but you can throw on them. Aaron Rodgers threw on them. And I think that the Colts will operate with some no huddle against a Vikings defense that isn't prepared to deal with it. They'll keep Nyheim Hines out there. They'll do a bunch of short yardage passes. And then if they get a lead, they're going to uncork Jonathan Taylor on them behind a weakened defensive line that won't have Danielle Hunter with Quentin Nelson out there and that good Colts offensive line. I thought the Colts in Jacksonville was always a bad spot for Rivers in Indianapolis. And I know I picked them to win the Super Bowl, but I didn't think that they were going to beat the Jags by more than 8 points. And I wouldn't be surprised if they lost. And I said that last week. I think they come out and bludgeon the Vikings here. And I think we start to look at the Vikings like, whoa, is this team bottom 10, bottom 5 in the NFL? I mean, I really think it's that possible because when you have a defense that falls apart like this from a personnel standpoint and just doesn't have the talent to do what Zimmer wants it to do, especially early on, and you have an offense with skill guys that are good, but is hell bent on running the football, that is a real recipe for failing in 2020.
Yeah, and the warning signs were there. They had a lot of, getting rid of talent in the offseason because they were so far up against the cap. So they trade away Stephon Diggs. They don't bring Everson Griffin back. Their cornerbacks get cleared out. Linval Joseph's gone. The guy they get to replace Linval Joseph opts out of the season. The guy they've traded for to boost the defensive line, just got here, so you can't expect a ton from Ngakoue right away. But then Hunter goes on the IR, so it's just this team's kind of falling apart. So I think that the warning signs are definitely there. And the Colts, it was a bad loss, but yeah, I don't think that they're a bottom 10 team. I think they're a much stronger team with these two, going forward.
Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris is a very nice safety combination, but you're asking Mike Hughes to take a big leap forward and become an elite player. Even if he's great and locks down T.Y. Hilton, the Colts have enough talent elsewhere in terms of pass catchers, whether it's running backs or Paris Campbell, who flashed pretty well in week 1, that they can do work. I mean, they're trotting out rookies in Holton Hill. This is not a good enough defense. This is not a good enough defense to do what Zimmer wants to do, and I don't think that they're going to adjust until later in the season.
Definitely fire on all your Paris Campbell. Buy up all that stock right now because this could be a huge game for him, especially considering he operates, near the line of scrimmage, and Phillip Rivers ain't throwing it downfield. We saw, so it could be a lot of Paris Campbell getting free against Holton Hill or, a rookie cornerback and taking it the distance. You think
we see a big game from Paris Campbell?
I do. I got him. I'm actually going because with how bad Rivers look, nobody's going to want to play Rivers in DFS. But I got Rivers, and I'll take Paris Campbell, and I'll take T.Y. Hilton just in case he can break free too. I don't think that his game lines up that well with Rivers' skill set, but throw those 3 guys in, you're going to have a group there that a lot of people aren't going to want because there might be some perception that Vikings still have a good defense. But as we saw in week 1, they do not. And they have a bad matchup problem against teams with solid pass offenses.
Rivers had 2 pass attempts of over 20 yards down the field, 1 for 1 on those. He was only missed 2 of a ton of passes inside of 10 yards. So it's pretty clear that's how they're going to operate. And that's not surprising either for a team that is, working in a new quarterback with new personnel. You don't want to stretch the field and deal with a bunch of mistakes. So I'll take the Colts here. I would take the over if it wasn't the Vikings. Like if it wasn't Mike Zimmer, who's going to be insist on running the football.
He could definitely slow this game down enough to hit
Frank
48
Reich,
and miss it just by half.
Frank Reich is totally willing to like play ball with somebody who wants to slow a football game down.
Mm-hmm.
Bills minus 5.5 at the Dolphins, over under 41. Is this? I don't know. I can't tell if it's an overreaction to what we saw from Buffalo against the Jets and what we saw. It's almost a little surprisingly low. I'm a little shocked it's not 7 points.
Yeah, I think they're kind of tempting you to take the Bills. I'm not going to do it. My lean would be to the Dolphins. I think the line's a little high, but I'm in no rush to back this Miami offense. But they have been very good at home. I have said through the years on this podcast that they're an underrated team at home. They went 4-1 against the spread last year after that September crash where, Rosen was in and out of the lineup and they were terrible. But 4-1 against the spread, against some solid teams there. But that one ATS loss was versus Buffalo. So maybe Josh Allen just has their number and he's going to run up the score again. So my line would be 4.5. There's not much difference between 4.5 and 5.5 because 5 isn't a key number. So I'm just going to make it a lean, even though I have a point off of this. But it should be a low scoring game. You see that with the 41 total, which means that if Dolphins can score even a little bit, more than expected, they should be able to cover this.
Okay. Yeah, I would lean Dolphins too, but I have no interest in backing it. I think you're right. It does stink like hey, look, the Bills were great and the Dolphins stunk. Like, come get that 5.5. Jaguars at the Titans minus 8.5 at home. Coming off a win in Denver late on Monday night. This is a short week for Mike Vrabel's squad. But the good news is, by the way, over under 44, they should get it. They should have a fairly simplistic game plan when it comes to approaching this Jaguars team.
Yeah, this is the strongest possible lean on Jacksonville for me at 8.5. It's a great spot. Titans coming off that late Monday night game. Had to play a ton of snaps in that game. It went to what, one? You could probably know better than me, like 130.
138, I think.
But the problem is Jacksonville won last week without putting up a lot of offense. It's going to be hard to do that consistently. But still, Minshew looked like a starting NFL caliber quarterback, and Jacksonville is better than people expected. I don't think they're the worst team in the league, which is where everybody kind of pegged them. The only reason I'm not jumping on it as a best bet is because Jacksonville is a super public dog in this one. People do not agree with this line. I think it's up to above 80% on Jaguars. So when you see the public really backing a particular, random underdog like that, kind of fires up the warning sign. So you could all definitely see, even though A.J. Brown, it looks like he's hurt, he might miss this game and maybe even more games. The injury news came out on Thursday. You could see them just handing it to Derrick Henry 30 times, going for 240 yards and 4 touchdowns. And all of a sudden you're thinking Jaguars down, 30-12. Like, why did I back this team?
Yeah, I think so. I'm in a survivor league with a friend of mine. We split some teams. We did 6 teams total. 3 lost and 3 won. It was stupid. I should have gone all in on the Bills and the Pats. That's what I thought about doing. But I lost the Colts, the 49ers, and the Eagles. Knocked out like literally 49% of the survivor pool. So I guess we'll just deal with that. We're going all Titans this week. Just putting all 3 on the Titans.
I can't believe you let anybody take the 49ers last week in your pool.
Me either.
Yeah, it's like that definitely could have that definitely was somebody else putting that in and Brinson not paying attention.
Long story, like I had to rush to get him in. And I was like, oh my God, I'm just going to take the 6 biggest favorites and just and make sure that I didn't like the 49ers. I thought about it too, but then I was like, oh God, I don't want to be all in on Buffalo and all in on the Pats. And then like Cam comes out and stinks. And it was dumb. I take the L for it, but we're going all Titans this week. And I think this is a Derrick Henry explosion game.
Yeah, he's in that same DFS lineup for me with the Paris Campbell. Like, just fire all on that Derrick Henry this week.
Yeah, I agree. I think Vrabel knows it's a short week. He's like, listen, boys, go in there. We're not – Ryan Taylor ain't throwing 43 times, Arthur. You feed Derrick Henry, create some space up front, and let this guy bust one. Derrick Henry feels like he always has one of those just like back-breaking long runs against the Jaguars. I think he has one this week. As Heath and I talked about, a Henry-Zeke Elliott combo lineup is pretty nice to deal with. You could see some heavy usage in that kind of game. I was scared. I almost said it. Washington at the Cardinals. The aforementioned Cardinals. Cardinals -7. The over-under is 46.5. A shocking high pace from both the not shocking from the Cardinals, but a shocking high pace from the Washington football team. Could this be a shootout, RJ?
No. I love the Cardinals at 6.5. If you can get it at 7, I love it even more. One of these football teams is a legit.
You love it more at 7 than 6.5?
if you're getting – oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I got them flipped around.
Yeah.
I was still thinking of the Cardinals-49ers game we were just talking about.
Right.
One of these football teams is a legit division leader. It's not the one that's called football team. They are not a good team. Arizona ran for 180 yards on San Francisco, only gave up 2 sacks. I think that offense could be taking a leap because that is a great defense that they did that against. Washington took advantage of Philadelphia's injuries on the offensive line to rack up sacks, but their offense was not impressive at all to me. If Arizona is a legit good team, and I think that they are, they win this game by double digits. This is an easy win you put in your pocket for a good team like Arizona if they are what I think they're going to be. So roll with them. Try to get it at 6.5, but yeah, like I said, I'll still take it at 7. I would take it up to probably 9. I just think that they're a really good team.
I took the Cardinals in my picks, and I'm with you. I think so. Arizona was 18th in DVOA. Mentioning it only, Football Outsiders and Aaron Schatz have said for years, like, you don't worry, don't get too caught up in DVOA until like a couple of weeks into the season because it has to normalize and all that. But it is worth noting how they performed. I just think they're good. Like, they can win the division.
Yeah, it wouldn't be shocking. I still wouldn't make them the favorite to win the division, but I mean, they got a win in the bag against San Francisco in San Francisco. So, I mean, it could happen.
If you were redoing the odds for the NFC West right now, I think you would make it Seattle minus 125, Rams 3-1, 2.5 to 1, Cardinals 4 to 1. Maybe that's downgrading San Francisco too much.
Yeah, it's probably downgraded. I think people would slot Seattle 1, San Francisco 2. Arizona maybe creep in front of the Rams because even though the Rams beat the Cowboys, it was at home. It wasn't that impressive of a win. It was a close game all the way through. And what Arizona did was a lot more impressive than what the Rams did. So I would think the Rams are probably bringing up their rear. I wouldn't put them that. I was talking them up before the season as great value on their division odds. And so, yeah, I wouldn't surprise me if San Francisco is the last team in this division. That doesn't mean they're going to go 4-12 again, but or they're 3-13 or whatever it was. But they could go 7-9, 8-8, yeah, and be the last team in the division.
Yeah, and it's not because they're not good. It's not because we don't like San Francisco or they're not good. They just deal with a ton of injuries and they're hung over from the Super Bowl. Okay, I'm with you on Cardinals though. Would you consider? Did you consider the Cardinals as part of a teaser instead of the Steelers or the 49ers?
Yeah, so in my teasers column that came out on Wednesday, I identified I had a top 10 list of teams I think are worth teasing and considering, but it's really there's 4 teams in my first tier, and that was the 2 teams you mentioned that I did tease, Pittsburgh and San Francisco, and then I'll throw Arizona in as the 3rd one, and then the Chiefs were the 4th one. You get them under a field goal against the Chargers. I feel really good about that. So those were my top 4. The Ravens come pretty close at, if you want to mess around with them, I'm okay with that too. So, yeah, a lot of good teaser options this week.
All right, Patriots at the Seahawks on Sunday Night Football. You watch it on the Peacock, I'm sure. The Seahawks are -4. The over-under is 45. I am surprised that this line is as high as it is.
Yeah. People are really buying into Seattle because what did we see in week 1 to believe this New England team isn't good? So I got a best bet at New England +4. They only had 21 points, but they had that missed field goal at the end of the first half. They had a fumble through the end zone by N'Keal Harry. That could have been 7 points on. If this game's 31-11, is this line really +4 in this matchup? Of course not. Seattle gave up 506 yards to the Atlanta. They needed several 4th down stops to hold them to 25 points. Part of that was Atlanta fumbling the fake punt. Part of that was these fourth and short plays. They aren't going to all miss every single time. So Seattle tricked Atlanta with the offense. I called them the Chiefs earlier. Atlanta prepped for the Seattle, and they ended up facing the Chiefs. That's not going to work twice, especially against the best defensive mind that's ever been coaching in this league.
Do you know who won't forget to prepare for the possibility of Russell Wilson passing the ball? Bill Belichick. That's who. I mean, what are we doing, Raheem Morris?
Pretty sure he got some good work in against Russell Wilson, preparing for, I believe it was a Super Bowl 49, maybe. Yeah. So he knows how to play this team. So I think New England could actually be the team that has some new tricks for Seattle. They put all those runs with Cam on tape. Now you got to prep for this New England offense is turning into run. Maybe they're the Ravens, part 2, and that's how they're going to win games. What if he starts motioning out to runs and all of a sudden he's popping passes over the middle to Devin Asiasi or some other random names that you wouldn't expect? So I think, New England could come out and take Seattle off guard. And if Seattle's reverting to their run tendencies, they have even a less chance of playing this game. But even if they don't, if he lets Russ cook, this is a great defense he's got to play against. So give me the Patriots all day at +4. It's a dumb line.
Yeah, that's one of my best bets too. I was shocked when I saw it. I like the under a lot as well. Pete Carroll has said that he's going to run the ball more. He's like, we got to get back to running the ball. I almost feel like they're like, all right, we're going to Atlanta. Nobody thinks we're going to do this. Let's let Russ cook and just show them we know we can. And then, but you're right. You can't let Russ cook against the Patriots. Their strength is their secondary. They're going to look at this game and say, we have to win with our matchup. It's a primetime game at home. We want to exert our will in the trenches. We'll utilize play action a bunch, but we're going to go out there and pound the ball. I think they run it a ton. I think the Patriots will run it a ton as well. And looking at the Patriots possessions, 448, 611, 230, 140, 30 seconds, which was a missed field goal after an interception at the half. 446, 748, 508, and 128, which was them taking knees after another interception. I mean, they're chawing up clock. They had the slowest pace of anybody in the entire NFL last week. And I think that we're going to see them do the exact same thing against Seattle, eat up clock. And when you do that, it also forces whoever you're playing to be wildly efficient. Like if they make mistakes on offense, or they, run the ball three times, run the ball twice, and Russ, doesn't complete a pass on 3rd and long, and they have to punt. Like you were going to flip the script on the Seahawks in that case, and so I love the Patriots +4. I think they went outright.
Yeah, I forgot before the season who you took in the AFC East. Was it Patriots or Bills?
Pats.
Yeah, and obviously you're going to stick with that now. I think I was leaning a little bit of the edge toward the Bills, but I wasn't counting the Patriots out. After seeing Cam healthy and seeing this offense, yeah, I think Patriots are going to win it again. Maybe not running away, but as easy as they've done in recent years. But I think that they're definitely the best team in that division.
And I'm going to tell people this too right now, and I hope that people who listen to the podcast frequently are currently still listening to the podcast. But if you go and look right now, and you know what, I'm going to try and find it on William Hill because they are our partner and our good friends at William Hill to see if they currently have divisional champions. You can bet on MVP after week 1 at William Hill. Russ Wilson is 6.5 to 1. Go bet on Russ at 6.5 to 1. He's got a huge lead over everybody else. Go bet that, people. And Kyler Murray down to 12 to 1. Aaron Rodgers down to 14 to 1. So division odds are up. For instance, the Saints were a stupid price of -125 or so thereabouts. They're now -200. I hope you jumped on that. We told you the Saints were the better team and provided tons of value. The Patriots are still not the favorite to win the division. The Bills are +100 and the Patriots are +105. Go bet the Patriots. Do it now. Go get a William Hill account or do it wherever you can. Or, do what you got to do. The Bills should not be favored to win this division. I think the Bills are a good team, but if the Patriots get 16 games at Cam, and you're getting the Patriots at plus money to win the AFC East, it's insane. And it'll be gone. It's gone.
And Josh Allen looks like he's getting better as a passer. And I don't want to draw too many wild things off of week 1, but he improved to me. But he still made a ton of mistakes. He's letting the ball, fumbling it left and right. Not showing good ball security.
I mean, he missed 2 of the most wide open touchdown throws you'll ever see.
So he's getting better, but he's still not, the player that Pete Prisco thinks he is, and that he lovingly stares at when he goes to sleep every night on the ceiling. So the poster of Josh Allen.
That boy, way to dunk on Pete while he's not here. All right, so that's a best bet for us on the Patriots as well. Finally, Saints at the Raiders. Saints -5.5. Michael Thomas, I don't know if he's been ruled out, but we're expecting him not to play. It sounded like his high. What a twist that it's like everybody, people are like screaming like, you can't go running back, 0 running back, blah, blah, and like the top wide receiver is now hurt and probably going to miss. I would guess somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. Maybe it's 3 or 4.
When I was on the fantasy pod before the season, the thing they specifically asked me was, you're really high on Emmanuel Sanders and nobody else is. I'm like, well, I don't know about really high. It's not like I'm saying he's going to, be a locked in number 2 receiver in fantasy, but he's being really devalued just based off of what he did last year. In this offense, he could have a big year. And then Michael Thomas gets hurt. It's like, well, now Sanders might be the number 1 option, in that passing game. He's going to be a pretty nice little monster if Thomas has to miss extended time.
That's a good point. Yeah, he should see a significant improvement. I think they'll still run it through Kamara. And I love the Saints here. I mean, look, I don't know if I love the Saints. They're not a best bet. I'm taking the Saints. If I were taking – it's Monday Night Football. People are probably going to be betting on it. The Saints will be the team that I'm eyeing here because I don't want to trust the Raiders.
Yeah, my lean is also to the Saints, but 5.5 on the road, brand new stadium. Obviously, there's no fans, so or I don't know. I don't know what their seating capacity is, but even if there is fans, it's not going to be many. So, I made the line 6.5 before the Thomas injury, so I don't mind backing the Saints. I am worried about losing him, so it's only going to be a lean for me at 5.5. Maybe think about teasing it down, but it's Monday night, so it's kind of hard to do that. What are you going to do? Tease it with like the over? Maybe get the over down to 43.5. So yeah, I'm probably just going to watch this one and not really be invested in it.
Let's see what hold on a second. Let me see what the games are for week 3. Oh, Miami Jacksonville on Thursday. Thursday night on week 3. I was going to suggest a money line parlay with the Monday and the Thursday game, because you can kind of do that now.
You're not pumped from Miami Jacksonville?
Well, I'm not pumped for the money line opportunity there.
You're not pumped for Ryan Fitzpatrick playing terrible against Buffalo, getting benched, and it's Tua versus Gardner Minshew on Thursday night?
Okay, I'm kind of excited for that.
That would be fun.
I can get down for that. Surely there's like a hockey, surely there's a Stanley Cup game you can moneyline parlay, or like a NBA playoff game. The Clippers, the Lakers get the Nuggets, and the Nuggets are only good in the second half of the series. So here's what you do: you wait till Monday, do moneyline parlay the Saints and a Lakers, an early. Not game 1. Don't do game 1. Do like game 2 or 3. And moneyline parlay the Lakers and the Saints. And that's your freebie cross sport parlay from your buddy Will Brinson there. Okay, that's all the games. RJ, any last thoughts?
Well done again. No, not really. I mean, I'm kind of interested to see some of these look ahead lines for week 3. You brought up week 3. You've seen things like Philly is -5.5 against Cincinnati. Obviously, people don't think they're going to tank that badly, even though that line came down against the Rams. If they're still 5.5 point favorites against Cincinnati, you got Indy as 7 point favorites against the Jets. That tells you how bad the Jets are expected to be, because Indy didn't look great in week 1 at all.
That's a 10-point game if Indy blows out Minnesota.
You got Tampa at 3.5 point favorites at Denver, so nobody's expecting much at Denver. So yeah, there is some possibility of jumping early on some of these lines and getting good value now before Sunday kicks off, especially if you nail what you think is going to happen in the Sunday games. Like, people should be holding a Steelers -6 in that Broncos game in their pocket if they were smart about it.
Yeah, you told us that last week.
Right.
Didn't listen. I did listen. I just forgot. That's how it works for me sometimes. All right, that's the podcast, the Picks Podcast. Make sure to check out us on youtube.com/pick6. We'll be back on Sunday night for our recap show. If you check in the feed, there's a Thursday night football recap show as well. Tons of great content at all times here on the Pick 6 Podcast. RJ, as always, buddy, it's a pleasure. Talk to you next week.